Desde la Universidad Militar Nueva Granada, en Bogotá, Colombia, transmite UMNG Radio. UMNG Radio. Una emisora alternativa, cultural e independiente. Desde la Universidad Militar Nueva Granada. Esta es UMNG Radio.
Lo que ocurre en la universidad, los acontecimientos y sus protagonistas están en UMNG Radio.
Tune in and speak up. Hello, English learners. Want to learn something interesting whilst having fun? Welcome to Tune In and Speak Up, the podcast where you'll get to know this beautiful language in depth. Each week, we'll dive into exciting topics, share practical tips, and tell you fascinating English language stories. So whether you're studying, going to work, or just relaxing, connect, listen, and let's make English part of your world. Wherever you are, whenever you want, just hit play, tune in and listen up. Tune in to UMNG Radio every Tuesday from 11 a.m. till noon. Don't just learn English, live it.
And Speak Up, the podcast from Universidad Militar Nueva Granada, where we explore curious stories, surprising facts, and cultural insights from around the world, all through the lens of English learning. This is the podcast where unusual moments from history and culture become your classroom for practicing English. I'm Jorge Bermúdez, teacher of English at the Department of Multicultural Studies at UMNG, part of the School of Education and Humanities. I'll be your guide through some of the most unexpected and thought-provoking topics, from forgotten inventions and everyday objects to strange ideas that quietly changed the way we live. Whether you're learning English as a second language or simply enjoy discovering how culture and history shape our daily lives, this podcast is for you. So, if you're ready to improve your listening skills, expand your vocabulary, and explore the hidden stories behind ordinary things, grab your headphones, tune in, and let's speak up. Today, in our fifth episode of the third season, the story of umbrellas, from a symbol of status to a rainy day necessity. Okay, let's go to our presentation. Here we go. The story of umbrellas. Let's talk about the object we only notice when it rains. Most of the time, umbrellas are invisible. They stay folded in bags, behind doors, or forgotten at bottom of closets. We rarely think about them until the rain begins. Only then do umbrellas suddenly matter. This is what makes them interesting. Umbrellas are not objects of desire. They are objects of need. They appear in moments of discomfort, urgency, and unpredictability. And yet, for most human history, umbrellas had nothing to do with rain. They were symbols. Long before umbrellas offer shelter from bad weather, they offer protection of a different kind, social protection. In ancient civilizations, umbrellas were associated with power, wealth, and status. They were carried by servants, not by those who used them. To stand beneath an umbrella was to stand above others. This meaning slowly changed. As materials improved and design evolved, umbrellas moved from palaces to streets, from symbols of authority to tools of everyday life. Along the way, they gathered stories, traditions, and superstitions. Even today, many people avoid opening umbrellas indoors without knowing why. The umbrella's history is not dramatic in the traditional sense. There are no wars fought over umbrellas. No empires built them. Yet their story quietly reflects how humans respond to nature, how technology reshapes daily habits, and how objects lose prestige as they gain usefulness. In this episode, we'll explore how a simple device designed for shelter reveals changing ideas about design, invention, and belief, and why something so ordinary still carries traces of its extraordinary past. And this takes us to our first segment: umbrellas before rain, power, shade, and status. The earliest umbrellas were not designed for storms, they were designed for the sun. In ancient civilizations, protection from sunlight mattered more than protection from rain, especially for elites. Shade was comfort, but it was also symbolic. To be shaded while others were exposed was a visible sign of power. This is why the earliest umbrella like objects appear in ancient Egypt, China, Mesopotamia, and India, long before umbrellas became practical tools for daily life. In ancient Egypt, parasols were associated with royalty and divinity. Wall paintings and reliefs, like the ones we have in the pictures, show servants holding large, decorative shade canopies over pharaohs and high ranking officials. The parasol did not belong to the person holding it, it belonged to the person beneath it. Shade followed status. The same pattern appears in ancient China. There, parasols were carefully regulated symbols of authority. The number of layers, the colors used, and the materials of an umbrella indicated rank. Only certain officials were permitted to use specific designs. In this context, the umbrella functioned like a uniform or crown. It communicated hierarchy instantly. These early umbrellas were often made from silk, bamboo, palm leaves, or paper, materials chosen for lightness and beauty rather than durability. They were not waterproof. Rain was not their purpose. Their value lay in visibility, not performance. To carry an umbrella was not practical, it was ceremonial. This explains why umbrellas were often rigid, heavy, and carried by others. Their design assumed stillness or slow movement, not walking through crowded streets. Umbrellas were part of processions, rituals, and displays of order. In India and Southeast Asia, umbrellas also carried religious meaning. In Buddhist and Hindu traditions, the parasol symbolized spiritual protection and cosmic order. Statues of deities and rulers were often depicted beneath ornate umbrellas, as we have in the picture, reinforcing the connection between shelter and sacred authority. Across cultures, the message was consistent. The umbrella did not protect everyone, it protected the important. This exclusivity shaped how umbrellas were perceived for centuries. They were not neutral objects. They were markers of privilege. Ordinary people did not expect shelter from the elements. Exposure was part of daily life. Only later, when technology allowed umbrellas to become lighter, portable, and waterproof, could their meaning begin to change. But this change required more than better materials. It required a cultural transformation. For an object so closely tied to power to become ordinary, it first had to lose its prestige. Umbrellas had to stop representing authority before they could start representing practicality. Understanding this early history explains why umbrellas entered everyday life so late. They were never just tools waiting to be improved. They were symbols waiting to be redefined. And this takes us to our second segment, designing shelter, materials, limits, and early invention. Oh, look at these beautiful Chinese umbrellas. Turning an umbrella into a truly useful object required more than imagination. It required materials, techniques, and design knowledge that simply did not exist for much of history. Early umbrellas were impressive to look at, but fragile in practice. As symbols of power, they need not need to resist wind or rain. They needed to be seen. This shaped their construction from the beginning. Most early umbrellas were made from bamboo, wood, silk, palm leaves, or paper. These materials were lightweight and visually appealing, but they absorbed water easily. When exposed to rain, they became heavy, unstable, and easily damaged. Water was the enemy. The idea of making something waterproof was not obvious or easy. Before modern chemistry, waterproofing depended on natural substances such as oils, waxes, resins, or animal fats. These could slow water absorption, but they rarely provided full protection. They also made materials stiff, dark, or unpleasant to touch. As a result, umbrellas were unreliable in wet weather. Design was another challenge. An umbrella needs to open and close smoothly, distribute weight evenly, and resist pressure from wind. Early frames were rigid or poorly balanced. Many umbrellas collapsed easily or turned inside out. Without strong metal ribs or flexible joints, the structure could not respond to movement. This explained why certain umbrellas were often large and stationary. They worked best when held above someone standing still, during ceremonies, religious processions, or formal appearances. Movement introduced risk. Innovation came slowly. For centuries, umbrellas changed very little. The basic idea existed, but the technology lagged behind. Unlike weapons or tools for agriculture, umbrellas were not essential for survival. There was little urgency to improve them. The turning point came with advances in textile production and metalworking, especially in Europe during the early modern period. Lighter metals made it possible to create folding frames. Treated fabrics began to resist water more effectively. Even then, early rain umbrellas were awkward. They were heavy, expensive, and uncomfortable to carry. Many people preferred cloaks, hats, or simply getting wet. The umbrella still had not fully escaped its identity as a luxury object. Design, in this sense, is not just about appearance, it is about timing. An invention becomes successful only when materials, social habits, and practical needs align. The umbrella existed for thousands of years before it truly worked. When it finally did, it changed quickly because people were ready for it. This long delay reminds us of something important. Invention is not a single moment of genius. It is a slow conversation between ideas and reality. And for the umbrella, that conversation took centuries. And that takes us to our next segment. Europe meets the umbrella. Resistance, ridicule, and change. When umbrellas first appeared in Europe, they were not welcome as practical inventions. They were questioned, mocked, and in some cases, openly rejected. By the 17th century, umbrellas had reached parts of Europe through trade and travel, especially from Asia and the Mediterranean. However, European society was slow to accept them. For many people, the umbrella still carried associations of foreignness, luxury, and unnecessary comfort. In cities like Paris and London, umbrellas were seen as strange and theatrical. Why carry an object for rain? Critics asked when coats, cloaks, and hats already existed. Getting wet was considered normal. Rain was part of daily life, not something that required special protection. There was also a strong social and gender dimension to this resistance. In England, especially, umbrellas were often associated with women or with people who were considered weak or overly concerned with comfort. A man walking with an umbrella risked being laughed at. Masculinity was linked to endurance, not shelter. One of the most famous figures in this story is Jonas Hanway, here in our picture. Don't forget the name, Jonas Hanway, an English traveler and writer. In the mid 18th century, Hanway began carrying an umbrella regularly in London. For decades, he was ridiculed in the streets. People shouted insults. Coachmen complained that umbrellas reduced their business. Yet Hanway persisted. His quiet resistance mattered. Over time, others followed. As cities grew larger and more crowded, walking became more common. People spent more time outdoors, moving between workplaces, shops, and homes. Rain became more inconvenient. Gradually, attitudes changed. Umbrellas began to be seen not as symbols of weakness, but of urban intelligence. Protecting one's clothes made economic sense. Staying dry improved comfort and health, at least according to contemporary beliefs. Technology helped improve frames, lighter materials, and better waterproof fabrics made umbrellas more reliable. As they became cheaper, they became accessible to a wider public. What was once a luxury slowly turned into a practical tool. By the late 18th and early 19th centuries, umbrellas were no longer controversial. They were ordinary. What makes this transition fascinating is how emotional it was. The resistance was not about function alone. It was about identity. Accepting the umbrella meant accepting a new relationship with the environment, one where comfort and protection were allowed. The umbrella's success in Europe marked a turning point. It had finally completed its transformation from symbol of status to object of ridicule to everyday necessity. This pattern would repeat itself many times in the history of design. And that takes us to our next segment, from craft to industry, when umbrellas became everyday objects. The moment that truly changed the umbrella was not cultural acceptance, it was industrialization. Until the 19th century, umbrellas were still relatively expensive and slow to produce. Many were handmade or partially crafted by skilled workers. This meant variation in quality, high prices, and limited access. Owning an umbrella was increasingly normal, but it was not yet universal. That changed with the Industrial Revolution. Advances in metalworking allowed manufacturers to produce thinner, lighter, and stronger ribs. Steel replaced heavier materials, making umbrellas more flexible and durable. New mechanical processes made folding mechanisms more precise and reliable. At the same time, textile innovation transformed the canopy. Tightly woven cotton, treated with oils or chemical coatings, improved water resistance. Later, rubberized fabrics and synthetic treatments made umbrellas truly waterproof. Rain no longer soaked through. Umbrellas finally worked the way people expected them to. Mass production lowered costs. Umbrellas could now be made faster, cheaper, and in large quantities. This shifted them from specialty items to everyday consumer goods. Shops sold umbrellas ready made, not custom built. Losing an umbrella became annoying, but not disastrous. Urban life played an important role. As cities expanded, walking became essential. Public transportation often required walking to stations or stops. Rain was no longer romantic or symbolic, it was inconvenient. The umbrella fit perfectly into this new rhythm of life. Design also evolved with behavior. Handles became curved for easier carrying. Sizes varied for different uses. Umbrellas became lighter, more portable, and easier to store. Some were designed to be elegant, others purely functional. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, umbrellas were everywhere. They appeared in advertisements, shop windows, and popular culture. They became gifts, accessories, and even fashion statements. The umbrella no longer belonged to kings, priests, or travelers. It belonged to everyone. What is striking is how quickly this shift happened once technology allowed it. For thousands of years, the umbrella waited. Then, within a few generations, it became ordinary. This reminds us that everyday objects often hide long histories of trial, failure, and patience. When conditions finally align, materials, production, and social need, change can feel sudden, even inevitable. The modern umbrella is not ancient, it is surprisingly recent. And it is a product of industry as much as imagination. And that takes us to our next segment, where we're going to talk about superstition, symbolism, and the meaning of shelter. Oh, look at this girl being terrified by her umbrella. Even after umbrellas became practical, affordable, and widely accepted, they never became just neutral objects. They carried stories. Some of these stories were rational, others were symbolic, and many of them became superstitions, beliefs that persist even when their original meaning is forgotten. One of the most common umbrella superstitions is the idea that opening an umbrella indoors brings bad luck. This belief exists in many cultures, especially in Europe. There is no single origin, but the presentation. But historians and folklorists suggest several explanations. One practical explanation comes from early umbrellas themselves. When umbrellas first became waterproof, their frames were stiff, heavy, and sometimes unstable. Opening them indoors could damage furniture, knock over objects, or even injure someone. Bad outcomes created bad associations. Over time, caution turned into superstition. Another explanation is symbolic. The umbrella is designed to provide shelter from nature, rain, sun, exposure. Indoors, this protection is unnecessary. Opening an umbrella inside disrupts the natural order of space. Protection where there is no danger. In symbolic thinking, this imbalance invites misfortune. This idea appears in many belief systems. Objects designed for one purpose are thought to cause harm when used incorrectly. The umbrella, when opened indoors, becomes a sign of disrespect toward the home, a space already protected. Now we have some more superstitions. We have a variety from different cultures. Umbrella on furniture. What is the meaning of that? If you leave your umbrella on a sofa, for example. The myth says placing an umbrella on a bed or any furniture invites bad luck or illness. So forget about leaving your umbrella on the sofa or the bed. Falling umbrella. The myth says if an umbrella falls to the ground, it signifies bad luck or trouble at work. The origin of this superstition suggests that a fallen umbrella is a sign of impending difficulties, and to avoid bad luck, someone else should pick it up for you. Okay, so if your umbrella falls to the ground, don't pick it up yourself. Ask someone to do it for you. Next myth, rain prediction. Carrying an umbrella will prevent it from raining, while leaving it behind guarantees a downpour. This is more of a humorous observation than a true superstition, often referred to as Murphy's Law, applied to weather. So if you carry your umbrella with you, it just doesn't rain. But if you leave it at home, for sure it will. Okay, wedding umbrella. The myth says getting married under an umbrella brings good luck to the couple. The origin, the umbrella symbolizes shelter and protection, which is believed to extend to the newlyweds, ensuring a happy and secure marriage. So now you know, if you're going to get married, make sure you do it under an umbrella. Legend from Japan, the Kasa Obake legend. In Japanese folklore, the Kasa Obake is a type of yokai. This means a supernatural creature that takes the form of an umbrella. It is often depicted with one eye, a long tongue, and a single leg. According to the legend, old umbrellas that have been neglected or discarded can transform into these mischievous spirits. The behavior. The Kasa Obake is known to hop, jump around on its single leg, surprising and sometimes scaring people. While generally harmless, it embodies the belief that even everyday objects can possess a spirit if they are old enough. And finally, a legend from the United States, the Umbrella Man, here depicted in our picture. This urban legend tells of a mysterious figure known as the Umbrella Man who appears during thunderstorms. He is said to carry a black umbrella and offer it to people caught in the rain. Those who accept his offer are never seen again. The origin of this story varies by region, but it often serves as a cautionary tale about accepting help from strangers. The Umbrella Man is sometimes linked to other urban legends about mysterious disappearances. So now you know, if someone offers you an umbrella in the middle of the rain, do not take it. Umbrellas also appear frequently in art and literature as symbols. They represent vulnerability, protection, isolation, and sometimes emotional distance. A person standing alone under an umbrella can appear guarded or separate from the world. Two people sharing an umbrella often suggest intimacy, trust, or cooperation. In religious and ceremonial contexts, umbrellas continue to symbolize authority and sacred protection. In parts of Asia, ceremonial parasols are still used in religious processions, linking modern practice with ancient tradition. What is interesting is that these symbolic meanings survive even when people no longer believe in them consciously. Some may say, I don't believe in superstitions, and still hesitate before opening an umbrella indoors. The reaction is emotional, not logical. This tells us something important. Superstition is not about ignorance, it's about memory. And obviously, cultural memory inherited by generations. Objects carry cultural memory. Even when the original reasons disappear, the feelings remain. Umbrellas remind us of exposure to weather, to chance, to things we cannot control. They represent our attempt to manage uncertainty. This is why umbrellas appear so often in moments of transition, entering or leaving a building, moving from dry to wet, and from safe to uncertain. They exist at the boundary between comfort and discomfort. In this way, the umbrella is more than a tool. It is a quiet reminder that humans have always searched for shelter, not just from rain, but from unpredictability itself. And that takes us to our vocabulary in context section, understanding the umbrella's story. Before we close this episode, let's take a moment to return to some of the key words that help us tell the story of the umbrella. These words are not isolated definitions, they are connected to history, design, and human behavior. The first word is shelter. Shelter is protection from danger or discomfort. In this episode, the umbrella is a form of portable shelter. It does not protect us from everything, only from rain or sun, but it represents the human desire to create safety wherever we go. From ancient parasols to modern umbrellas, shelter is the central idea behind the invention. The second word is waterproof. Waterproof means resistant to water. Early umbrellas were not truly waterproof. They absorbed rain, became heavy, and often failed. The history of the umbrella is closely tied to the challenge of waterproofing materials. Only when fabrics and treatments improved did umbrellas become reliable tools for everyday life. Next is the word invention. An invention is not always something completely new. Often it is an improvement. The umbrella existed for thousands of years before it worked well. Its invention was gradual, shaped by materials, technology, and social needs. This reminds us that innovation is often slow and uneven. Another key word is design. Design is not just how something looks, it is how something functions. The design of the umbrella had to solve problems of balance, folding, strength, and movement. A well-designed umbrella opens easily, stays stable in the wind, and feels natural to carry. Good design often becomes invisible. We only notice it when it fails. And the final word is superstition. Superstition is a belief that links actions to outcomes without scientific evidence. Opening an umbrella indoors is considered bad luck in many cultures. Whether or not we believe this, the superstition reveals how deeply objects are connected to emotion and memory. The umbrella is not just a tool, it's a symbol. When you put these words together, something interesting happens. The umbrella becomes more than an everyday object. It becomes a story of shelter, invention, design, and belief, all carried in one simple object we often take for granted. And that is exactly why everyday objects are worth studying. And this takes us to our closing reflection: what an umbrella really tells us. At the end of this story, the umbrella looks very different from the object we started with. It is no longer just a tool for rain. It began as a symbol of power. Don't forget that. Held above kings and gods. For centuries, it existed without truly working. Then it was mocked, resisted, improved, industrialized, and finally accepted. Even today, it still carries meanings that go beyond its function. The umbrella reminds us that everyday objects are never just practical. They reflect how societies think about comfort, status, risk, and control. For a long time, protecting yourself from the rain was seen as unnecessary or even weak. Enduring discomfort was part of identity. The umbrella challenged that idea. It suggested that shelter was not something to be earned, but something to be carried. When technology caught up, behavior changed quickly. Cities grew, walking increased, and rain became an inconvenience rather than a shared experience. The umbrella adapted perfectly to modern life, portable, personal, and temporary. Yet, traces of the past remain. We still hesitate before opening an umbrella indoors. We still associate umbrellas with intimacy when they are shared, and isolation when they are not. We still lose them, forget them, and replace them, a sign of how ordinary they have become. And maybe that is the final lesson. The most successful inventions disappear into daily life. They stop feeling special. They become invisible until the moment we need them. So the next time you open an umbrella, think about what you're holding. Not just shelter from the rain, but centuries of design, belief, resistance, and change, folded quietly above your head. It looks like it's going to rain today, so when you use your umbrella this afternoon, remember this episode. Okay, so thank you so much for spending this time with me on Tune In and Speak Up, the podcast from Universidad Militar Nueva Granada. I hope you enjoyed our journey on the story of umbrellas, from a symbol of status to a rainy day necessity, and discover how even the most ordinary things can carry deep cultural meaning. If this episode helped you see everyday life a little differently, or helped you connect language with history and culture in a new way, then this episode has done exactly what it was meant to do. Learning English is not only about grammar or vocabulary. It is also about understanding how people live, think, and express values through simple actions. This season, we will continue exploring unusual yet meaningful topics that reveal the strong connection between language, history, and daily experience. Each episode is designed to help you improve your listening skills, expand your vocabulary, and develop a deeper awareness of how culture shapes communication. If you found today's episode useful or interesting, feel free to share it with your classmates, friends, or fellow English learners. Learning becomes stronger when it is shared, discussed, and experienced together. And if you'd like to share your thoughts, reflections, or feedback, we would truly love to hear from you. Your ideas help us grow, and your voice helps shape future episodes. This podcast exists for learners like you, curious, thoughtful, and committed to improving step by step. We'll be back next week with another topic that may surprise you, make you reflect, or inspire new conversations in English. Until then, keep listening, keep practicing, and most importantly, keep exploring the world through language. And as always, keep speaking up. Until next time. Leito, thank you very much. Bye-bye, everybody.